Hello, my name is Elvin and welcome to Accent on Cars. Today we have 2012 Audi A6 C7. We're going to talk about its design, driving and handling characteristics, reliability and common issues. And as always, we're going to measure 0 to 60 time and quarter miles and all of that coming up next. Stay tuned until the end. Alright, so like I said, we have 2012 Audi A6. This particular body design came out in 2012, so this is the first year car. Quite honestly, when it came out, it was so impressive, and even today, it looks so aggressive. It's a subjective decision, but to me, this looks so much better than the last generation A6. I like the curves, I like the shapes, you know, it's less square than the modern ones are. This particular car is pretty well equipped, so you guys will get to see like all the options that the car offered at all. Design wise, like just look at it. Seriously though, like who's gonna call it ugly? If you call it ugly, I don't know, man, that's your decision. But I love, like I said, I like the front end design, I like the back end. Straight lines going from the beginning to the end makes the side look of this car fantastic. And then the curvy front bumper, traditional Audi style. This headlights, you know, this particular car has the most advanced headlights, which are full LEDs, and I'm in particular love with the shape of them. Both the daytime running lights and the LEDs, like front low beam and high beam. The shape of it, like this aggressive. I like this design much better than the latest generation, which is, you know, more like straight lines. What we've got like adaptive cruise control. You can see there's like radars over here in the bumper. You have the camera embedded into the sign. Pretty interesting placing. Usually this is like placed under the window, but this car also has like sensors under the glass, but it also has a sensor over here. So Parktronics, rear view camera, pretty much everything, but more on that later. The rims, so let's see what we have for tires. We have 245, 45, 18. The suspension, we'll talk more about it when we drive it, but the suspension on 18-inch rims is doing a fantastic job gliding over the road. But you could upgrade or put a bigger rims like 19-inch. You will be just fine. Not so sure about 20, but even with 19, the car is gonna ride excellent. LED turn lights on the rear view mirror, and come closer, please. One of my favorite features in Audis is, not even features, but the trim feature is this chrome. Just look at it. Doesn't it look awesome? I don't know, man. I just look at this chrome. It's one of those like things that don't really matter that much, but makes the whole interior and the design so like welcoming. You open it, you see this, and you're like, this is a serious interior. And the seats and interior, more about that in a bit. We have a pretty wide pillar over here. It's pretty wide, and I think like one good thing is that the door, the rubber, kind of like closes the side of it, but doesn't close the skirt, and that area does get dirty. So when you get in and out of car, you might, and most likely you will in wintertime like this, stain the back of your jeans. Shall we pop the hood open and talk about the engine and transmission? Look at this. This particular car is equipped with 3.3 liter V6 supercharged Audi engine. It has dual overhead cams, direct injection, producing 315 horsepower and 310 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. The engine is one of the most reliable Audi engines. This engine has earned its own reputation. Common issues that might be present are the chain rattle. Sometimes if the oil hasn't been changed on time, or oil level was consistently low, the chain tensioners can wear out, and that may lead to like chain rattle at cold start. If that happens, you probably want to get that fixed as soon as possible. Not a big job, not something like a regular DIYer could take on, but if you take it to a qualified independent mechanic, not to the dealer, you can get it replaced for under $1,000 or $1,000, parts and labor included, at least over here in Massachusetts. I know of someone. If you need a recommendation, shoot me an email. Yeah, other than that, it's pretty much solid. The vehicle will and the engine will consume oil no matter what. So if your vehicle can, any Audi pretty much, or any Volkswagen product consumes oil, that's a norm for them. So in between oil changes, which I recommend you change oil every like 5,000 to 7,000 miles at most. Most like 5,000 miles is the way you want to go, like, and how often you want to change the oil. And you should expect to add like a liter in between oil changes at a minimum. That's like a norm for Audi engines. But if it consumes more than that, that could be a problem. Another issue that may be present is like the carbon buildup on the valves, but there's nothing you can do about it. It doesn't mean that Audi engines are bad. That's just how it is with all the direct injections, because the fuel bypasses the back of the valve. There might be some carbon buildup, but in general, these cars like run like 100, 150 miles, 1,000 miles without major issues, assuming like the car and the vehicle has been taken care of. On this cold day, the heat coming from the engine really warms me up, and I like it. I like the red coils on the spark plugs. It kind of like makes this engine look a little sporty. In S6 version, they even had like red like inserts on the cover. That made it to look even better. So this is your true supercharger, pretty much. And here's the best part about this engine. This engine has a huge potential for ECU tuning or for tuning. Get a tune from a well-reputable tuner. Get the ECU tuned. You can even like upgrade the exhaust, and you can do like 3.8 seconds 0 to 60. You can seriously do that. You can, like, a lot of people have done it, but stock it should be in the vicinity of 5 something 0 to 60. We will measure that in a bit, but just like think about it, 3.8 is pretty much 2020 like sport car area, and it may affect the longevity of the engine, but the history has proven that a lot of people have done it successfully. The engine did not give them any issues or much of any issues related to the tune necessarily. The transmission is 8-speed automatic, and thanks for that, very nice and smooth and sturdy transmission. Also very reliable transmission. I don't know if Audi recommends servicing that transmission, but I would like change transmission fluid every 40,000 miles or something like that, like Mercedes recommends nowadays. If Audi doesn't, that's, I don't know then. But if you get one of these with high mileage and the transmission has never been serviced, then you don't want to touch that transmission, like leave it alone. But if it has been consistently serviced, you want to continue doing that so that your transmission lives for even longer. But I think, like, in general, the transmission and engine too will outlive some other things. Like, many other things can go wrong, which we will talk about with the owner if he has had any issues. But you should expect normal wear and tear items in the suspension, electronics maybe. Electronics not so much. But the most reliable versions, if you want to get the most reliable of A6 3.0, is the later year, and that's the case with any German cars. Yeah, and I believe other common issues might be like little things such as leaking valve covers, easy to fix. You could do it yourself. The engine has so much character that it kind of like makes the rest of like little issues not worthwhile, like considering or like being worried about. It has so much character. I'll talk more about it when we drive it, but it is a pretty fast engine. Aluminum hood. By the way, there's a lot of aluminum used in the chassis. The suspension is full aluminum. We have multi-link suspension all around. Despite that, the car is still somewhat heavy. It's like a little more than 4,100 pounds, but not the heaviest mid-size sedan out there. You want to have light weight materials in the suspension, which they have done because that affects the maneuvering and going forward and going around the corners. And see this badge over here? Quattro, old school and real Quattro, meaning it's a constant four-wheel drive system with a torsion differential. You will never get stuck in snow, especially if you have winter tires. But even with all-season tires, you should be just fine. Newer generation Quattros, the so-called Quattro Ultra, is two-wheel drive system that can, through the clutches, send the power to different to the rear front axle, depending on, you know, the road conditions and how hard you accelerate. Works almost perfect, but it can't be as perfect as a constantly working four-wheel drive system. So if you're a young person really into spirited driving, I do recommend 3.0 turbo A6 in particular. But if you are just looking for a luxury sedan for going from point A to point B, you might as well get 2.0 TFSI engine to save on gas. Gas-wise, this car, like from the factory at least, it says that it's 19 in the city, 25 or something on highway. So combined, you should expect in the vicinity of 19 or something like that. Not too bad, and definitely worth it. But if you do want to get the 2.0 liter engine, definitely get the latest manufacturing date, because earlier TFSIs had issues with the piston rings, etc. I talk more about it in my Audi A5 review. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. It's gonna pop up on the top right corner too. And don't forget to thumbs up and to subscribe. I appreciate that. That helps the channel a lot. I guess let's talk about the interior a little. One of the best interiors in German car manufacturing that I've ever seen, and I mean it. I like everything. I like the design of the dashboard. The dashboard, unlike the new ones, isn't like flat. It has many layers to it, and things look like really expensive. The dashboard is kind of like tilted towards the driver, underlying that this is the driver's car. All the buttons, all the switches, everything is a, you know, there's a nice like touch to them. This is why you are paying so much for a German car, because attention to detail really matters to Germans. You know, they don't just give you buttons. They meticulously pick the right springs for the buttons, so that there's like a right amount of resistance when you push on them. There's this like satisfactory like click, satisfying click that you feel each time you touch the buttons. So that what really makes German car a German car, and that's the main difference between Germans and Japanese. We have ample amount of chrome, real chrome. It's all like cold. Maybe it's a plastic, but it looks like so real, and it's cold, so must be real chrome. And we have Bose or Bose, whatever the right pronunciation is, like speakers. They sound good, they sound well, but optionally you could have gotten Bang & Olufsen, I believe, right? But that was almost like $7,000 option. But even with this is still considered premium speakers, like premium audio system. The bass did not sound so good. Steering wheel, 4-spoke, Audi logo welcomes you. We don't have panoramic sunroof, but we have a sunroof. We don't have Alcantara or suede headline, but we have this like nice like dark black cloth, which looks good. All the buttons over here, LED lights and stuff. I don't know what else can one ask for, seriously. Like, this is such a nice place to be. The seats are comfortable, they're adjustable. The seat controls are over here, something I don't like. I think Mercedes has done it the best of all the cars, with moving the seat controls onto the seat so that it's easy to find. Even this like light switch, it has like a nice weight to it. You know, it's like tick, 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 it clicks each time you turn it. I don't know, man. I like it. Maybe I'm becoming an Audi fanboy and betraying Mercedes a little over here. We have the heads-up display, all the technology pack basically. Heated. Let's check. I'm 5.8, and let's see how much space there's behind me. This is not news to me. I've traveled in this car long distances, both on the front and on the rear seats. Pretty comfortable place. There's enough space for your feet under the front seat, so you know you can extend your leg. There's enough space in the back. The back seat itself, the cushion is not like too long. It's a little like short, but hey, you know, this is not an A8. This is A6. So for the segment, it's acceptable. We have heated back seats. You have your own climate controls. I don't see USB. Let me see. Yeah, there's no USB, but there are two power outlets that you could stick your power outlet to and use that as a USB. Back in 2012, USB was not considered like as common as it is nowadays. Nowadays, I believe even Corolla has USBs in the interior. All right, let's go for a ride. I'll tell you everything about driving Audi C7 2012. One thing I should say right off the bat, I am surprised how soft this suspension is. This is not my first time in this car, and I noticed it right away when I sat behind the steering wheel. Very first time. It's just so soft. Like I just don't understand how they've accomplished it, because this is not even an air strut, and I don't think you have the adaptive suspension option, right?
No.
Yeah, so even without that, it's doing an amazing job over here in Massachusetts, in the town. You know, we don't have the best roads available in here. The engine is nice and healthy. It wants to go. That supercharger definitely helps. And plus it's V6, not that without the supercharger there wouldn't be enough power. But supercharger definitely helps with that immediate torque and horsepower. All right, let's go.
Where you want?
60.
Steering, to my liking, especially after AMG, you know, my own AMG, it's a little too light, but it kind of gets heavier as you turn more, or it's also like speed dependent. Depending on your speed, it gets like heavier. There's more weight to it. It becomes more intuitive. Yeah, so I'm not complaining about the accuracy or about the speed at which it responds to your inputs. I'm just like noting that it's a little light. Okay, let me put it in comfort for now. And yeah, in comfort it has become a little more lighter and a little more numb. I feel like there is more kind of like dead zone around the zero. You know, I mean, it still turns, but it was much better in individual. I'm gonna put it in dynamic so that we have dynamic setting for the gearbox, dynamic for the steering and engine, throttle response rather. In terms of acoustic comfort, we are going what? We are going 60 on a windy day, and you know, it's winter, but yet it's pretty quiet in here. One thing I should say that I don't necessarily like attribute to the greatest attributes of this car is the length of the seat cushion. I wish it was a little longer, but the leather feels good. There's enough side support, not too much, not too aggressive like in an A6 probably, but you know, for this car, for the car that it is, it's enough. It's not too flat. Car is very well equipped. I don't even know what's missing in this interior. We have blind spot assist, we have adaptive cruise control, Parktronics or like parking sensors. I don't know what else. Heads up display, backup camera. Backup camera is kind of shitty, but more on that in a minute. All right, so look at look at the quality of this screen. Like, what is this? My old Nokia phone did somewhat much more like better job than this. Yeah, back in 2012, Mercedes gave you like in E-classes, gave you much sharper screen and much sharper camera, although you didn't have those like lines. Somebody I know had an S8, the top of the line, 2014 I believe or something, and it had the same crappy screen and the camera. My mind was just blown. I just couldn't understand. First time I saw this interior at night, you know, with the door open, all the lights come up, everything like lights up in this like beautiful red color. It looks like a space shuttle. If you ask me, I would say it's such a pity that nowadays they've switched to more like blank design in interior with like double screens, piano glass everywhere that gets like finger stained all the time. It just doesn't look as sophisticated anymore as this one. And I bet this one's more expensive for them to produce than the new one, because basically the new one, they've just moved everything into the screens. Over here, there are so many buttons, and I'm the button guy. I know some of you like don't like when there are many buttons. I like when I have physical controls for most stuff. Just look at this, like this wide center panel, this wood. Oh, just like touching it feels like so good. It's like high quality. Everything is sturdy. The instrument cluster, the bezels around the speedometer and tachometer. I just like love how it's been designed. It's just, and like you have like physical dials in here. You still have like a decent sized screen, a bigger screen that Mercedes or BMW offered at the time. And you can like go through different various menus in here. You know, if you had the map on, you could have the map in there.
Yeah, the only thing it does not have is just a rear sheet.
Sorry about that.
It's just the rear sheets.
Rear shades, okay. Another funny thing, Audi doesn't give you the trunk, like button operated trunks. You still have to use your hands like a peasant. I just don't understand, like such a beautiful interior, and they saved on that button and motor. That
Those are two options, obviously. Yes.
oh, it was an option. Okay,
yes.
but this car is like so well equipped. Like in Mercedes, you get that button as almost as a default. So this particular car is stock. It has 315 horsepower. I believe in European versions it had 330, but over here in North America. All right, 50 already. Okay, so we had like 310 horsepower, 325 pound-feet of torque. But just a simple ECU tune and exhaust, and you can get like over 400 horsepower, basically like simple, like low investment tuning, right? Exhaust and ECU, and you will do less than 4 seconds 0 to 60 thanks to this beautiful butter smooth 8-speed transmission and very healthy engine. And the best thing about it is that this engine and this transmission can hold that tune. You know, it's not gonna give you a hard time. It may eventually, you know, affect the longevity of the engine, but so many people have done it, and you know, so many people have done it in Russia, for example. And some of you might know that in Russia the conditions are much harsher. The oil quality is poorer. It's much colder outside. The roads are more dirtier. There's more dust and stuff. So even with that, even in such a harsher conditions, ECU tuned engines like ran 150 or like close to like 90, 100,000 miles, no issues. There's a great amount of exhaust note coming. Man, I would really like do a resonator delete or something to make the exhaust even more laudable, but it still comes through this interior. You hear that V6, and it's a very pleasant V6 tone. You know, some V6 sounds like crap. One of the best things about North American models was traditional automatic, no DSG. DSG was like, that stands for basically dual clutch, was much faster to shift, but it was so problematic, and you know, you had to change the oil in them more often. And okay, let's sit tight. Yep, we have true quattro, which definitely helps when going around the turns. This is that car that you could, especially if it's like ECU tune, you could take to a racetrack and have a lot of fun. And I don't think like this will be like much worse than S6, for example. Yeah, S6 has a different suspension setup, but regular E-Class, right? If I compare to this E350 is not the car I would take on a track because it's too comfort oriented. As a Mercedes guy, I have to admit, I hate to admit it, but I have to admit that Quattro is the best four-wheel drive system. What can be wrong about it? Yep, 77. So much confidence. Like this Quattro system gives you so much confidence. It's almost dangerous. It's just so planted. You know, constant four-wheel drive with torsion differential, not locking one. This one doesn't have an LSD like S6 does. And yet, let's see. Minimal wheel spin. I think this car is a great car for someone who, like, you know, is into spiritual driving. And this particular engine, unless you want to go like upper the trim to S6 or RS6, I don't even think we had RS6 in the US. This particular engine is the best. All right, Jane, thanks so much for providing your beautiful car for the review today. I am very excited about reviewing this car, as you guys might have already noticed. So a few questions for you, just so the viewers understand like why you decide to buy Audi, whether it's a good car, it's a crappy car. And he promised to be honest and unbiased. Okay, so why did you do? And by the way, he's the guy who's had like also the cars. There was a time when he was a Mercedes guy, then he was a BMW guy, then he was like an Acura guy, whatever. Like, and then he's like switched to Audi, and this is probably the longest car that he keeps. You know, like he just like switched cars like too soon.
Well, I had a few accidents though.
Okay, but not his guilt. Somebody bumped into him. Anyway, so why did you buy an Audi?
Well, back in 2015, when I just got inside this beautiful interior, as you said already, I just got in love with it.
Okay.
I love this screen that came on and came off. The materials of everything around you is so good. Yeah.
Okay. So you just like the design, just the car as a in general. So you just.
I did a little bit of the research regarding the how reliable the car is, the transmission and the engine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like old like Mercedes back in the days they were building much better cars those days. But anyway, if you compare this one to like other modern cars, it's pretty good. Yeah.
And I believe these cars like nowadays, like depending on the option, mileage, and the condition, go between like, I don't know, 15 to 20. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So 15 to 20. I mean, you can get it for much more money if the car's like really low mileage and been well taken care of. But in general, that's the ballpark. And probably 20 is like for good ones. Like more like 15 or like 16.
Well, obviously it depends on the mileage.
Depends on the mileage, yes. But because we talked about reliability, because we said that the transmission and the engine were reliable, and you should still get the car checked out, but knowing that, you shouldn't be afraid of getting one with like 90, 80,000 miles on it or 100,000 miles on it. You should be fine. So how does it compare to your like E-Class that you had years ago, like
CLK? Well, this one is kind of more sporty because the CLK has a little bit different construction for the steering. So it didn't feel as good on the road as this one, and this one is all-wheel drive, so you feel like much more
planted,
confident.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
so
it's even faster than the one I had before. The CLK was 4.3 V8 engine. This is 3.0, but this one is faster because it has the supercharger.
All right, tell us about like maintenance. What have you changed on the car? What has gone wrong?
The day I just purchased the car, I was offered the 2-year powertrain insurance, which I didn't buy. I was like worried about it, but I own this car for more than 2 years right now, and nothing got broken during this time. So the only thing which is very common for these engines is the upper chain tensioners. Sometimes it gives you like a little bit of a noise in the morning when the car stood, during the night. Like, so regarding this suspension, I just did the sway bar links. That's it. I think it still has the original struts, which I'm gonna replace sometime. Well, it's a driver's car, so I would recommend it to any age. Even if you're a young person, you can enjoy the ride, and if you're an older person, you can enjoy the luxurious design on the interior and how it drives. It's still really comfortable. So yeah, it's very, very balanced car.
All right. Thanks so much again. It was a blast having this car for the review. If you are local, if you're close to Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and you want me to review your cool car, shoot me an email. I'll be more than happy.